Hi, my name is Misha Calvert, and this is Film on Tape, an audio library of everything that I have learned as a filmmaker. I really hope that this is helpful to you in some way. And if it is, feel free to check out my website, mishacalvert.com. You can see my writing and directing there, and you can also sign up for very occasional emails that I send. All right, on to the show. Tribeca Film Festival is right around the corner, and we're bringing back One from the Vaults in honor of Tribeca. This is a conversation that I had with my friend Ben Thompson, who is, well, number one, the nicest man alive. Number two, he's the head shorts programmer at Tribeca Film Festival. And we had him on the old podcast back when it was Unlikely Protagonists with myself and my co-host Brett Epstein, and asked him to come on. He very graciously agreed to come on and honestly spilled a lot more secrets than I thought he would. He was very candid in how he spoke about short film submissions and selections and what he looks for in a film. So I really enjoyed this conversation with Ben, and I hope that you do too. So here we are, Ben Thompson from Tribeca Film Festival. So Ben, we're just wondering, what do you actually do for Tribeca as the head shorts programmer?
For Tribeca, I watch a lot of the short film submissions, and myself and my colleague Sharon Bedell every year get thousands of submissions from around the world, and it is our job to work our way through them and select what we think would be interesting and engaging for audiences, and then construct programs out of those films. So in a typical program, we might look at something like comedy, for example, and we would put together a number of comedy shorts in a program and then present it at Tribeca. So that's sort of it in a nutshell.
How many short film submissions did you get this year?
This year for Tribeca, we received over 7,200 short film submissions, which was a record for us. I think in the years that I've been working for Tribeca, it seems to have gone up and up each year. So every year is a new record, which is great because it means a lot of people are making films. But it also gives us a lot of films to watch as well, which is can be quite daunting when you look at those sort of numbers.
And Ben, what is the length of the film that is accepted to be considered a short film?
So Tribeca goes by the Academy qualifying guidelines. So a short for them is between 1 and 40 minutes. So the longest it can be is 39 minutes and 59 seconds. But I think the majority fall in the range anywhere between kind of like 12 to 24 minutes.
Okay, out of the 7,200, how many will screen this year at Tribeca?
We have selected 43 in competition.
Ooh, whoa!
I know. It's
wow.
It's competitive. Let's just say that. When I throw out those sorts of numbers, it's never meant to discourage filmmakers. I always then kind of preface it with, these are different kind of things you can think about to give your film better odds to be selected. But the reality for most of the top tier festivals is you are jumping into a huge pool with a lot of other films. So it's amazing when you are selected, but that shouldn't reflect on the quality of your film. It's just there are only so many slots and so many.
I'm wondering, why do you think the number of total submissions has continuously gone up? I'm sure there's a couple factors. Is it just more people are making films, or Tribeca has gained a whole lot of traction, or what do you think?
I think definitely the reputation of Tribeca has just grown over the years. When I first started, and I would call up filmmakers, and this was decades ago, I would be like, and yes, we would love to select your film for Tribeca, and they would be like, oh yeah, that's great. When's Tribeca again? Oh yeah, definitely. I'll see if I can make it. Yeah, that sounds fun. Thank you so much. And now it's really like, people have said, yeah, I just need a minute. I've got to go and open my window so I can scream, and then I'll come back and talk to you. But thank you so much. So it really, to see the festival evolve and how much it means to people to screen there. I think that's part of it. There are certain festivals around the world, like Sundance, Cannes, Toronto, Venice, that really, even if you're not in the film industry, even if you don't know that much about film, you could say to someone on the street, I got my film into Sundance, and they will be like, oh, that's fantastic, I've heard of that. Or I've got my film into Cannes or Tribeca, and you get to that level of notoriety, of reputation, and it really means a lot to be able to launch your film on one of these platforms.
How did you grow to become a world-class festival? What were some of the building blocks to that?
I think Tribeca was fortunate in that it had a lot of the right ingredients from the start. I mean, it was founded back after the September 11th attacks as a way to really revitalize downtown Manhattan when people had kind of stayed away after the towers had come down. And so it had this mission already built into it. This is why we are starting a film festival. It was started by Robert De Niro, Jane Rosenthal, and Craig Katkoff with that aim. And it was New York as well. And I think the founding sponsor was American Express. So right off the bat, you had De Niro, New York, American Express. It was really a great ingredients for success. You had money, you had star power, and you had a city that's very iconic in the film industry. So that really kind of gave it a good start. And what I think a lot of people don't know is that it wasn't seen as a festival that was going to continue. It was a short-term project, maybe a year, maybe 2 years, to bring people down, and then it would be done. And last year we just had our 20th festival.
Wow.
Woo! Can you tell us a little bit about how you climbed the ladder there? How did you get this position at Tribeca? What interests you about it? And just what's the journey been like for you?
I started as an intern, and that was, I think, my first job in New York. As you can probably tell, I'm not a native New Yorker. I came over from the UK, and I was looking for a way to get into film. And a friend had mentioned that there was this company that had started down the road, and I should go and talk to one of the people down there. And he said I sometimes have coffee with the guy. So I ended up at Tribeca and had a really good chat with a fellow named Jeff Eisenman, who was lovely and gave me a kid off the street, 30 minutes of his time to just talk about his journey into the film industry. And as we were finishing, he said, oh, and we also have an internship program here, if that's something you're interested in. I was like, yes, that would be great. And then just being in that environment, you start to learn lots of, I was working in production, and I found out there was, I knew of the film festival. I knew Tribeca had started the year before I started. So I had an awareness of what it was. But once you're kind of in that environment, you start to really see how a film festival works, what elements go into it as a production of this kind of huge event.
So on that note, Ben, what are some of the building blocks of a festival that your average filmmaker or actor doesn't even think about?
Wow. So there are so many departments that kind of that comprise a film festival. First of all, programming. I think people just think of a film festival and there's films being shown, but they don't really kind of think about the process in which those films are chosen, or the people who are choosing those films. It's a festival, there's films. These films just came from somewhere, but they're great, I'll watch them. And then you get into all of the layers of everybody who's involved in putting these together, from the screenings team who, make sure all of the screenings are organized and scheduled. Especially with a big festival, you have so much kind of overlap and films that have certain requirements, and it's really like trying to put together a giant jigsaw puzzle where, you're keeping everybody happy, to the tech team and the print traffic team that, these films are sent in, and you have this team that works 24 hours to make sure they all go up on screen. It's not like a traditional movie theater where you have a film and you have a run. You have, maybe 4 different film screening in one night. When I first started, and they were all on different formats. So you had 35 millimeter or HD cam or 16 millimeter. So, these projectionists were just, constantly on, and sometimes managing 4 or 5 theaters at the same time. And then production that just makes sure everything kind of happens. That's a department that doesn't stop as well. So it's so many people involved. It really is it still baffles me to this day.
As well as the film screenings, you also have a full slate of talkbacks and seminars and literal just events that have nothing to do with the actual screening of the footage. Is that right?
Yeah, that's one way I think Tribeca has really evolved. And if you notice, not many people have. Some people have. The word film has actually been removed now. It's the Tribeca Festival because it encompasses so much. It's talks, it's podcasts, immersive, it's games, it's masterclasses. It is film still, but there's so much else that is going on. It's to call it just a film festival would be a little perhaps narrow in terms of our scope and what we are actually now.
I'm wondering, Ben, what would you say is the most challenging part about your job and the most rewarding part to you?
The most challenging is the selection process, in that when you go from the sheer number of films we screen, 7,200 in this case, to such a small amount. It's like those decisions are thought about, agonized over, weighed in, you are going to be not selecting, hundreds of incredible films that deserve to be at the festival, films that have the quality, films that did nothing wrong. They're a great film, but, it's often against another great film, and you have to really balance what you're doing. So that's probably the most challenging aspect. And myself and my colleague Sharon really spend a long time on that process. We've sort of managed the schedule over the year, so that is now one of our longest chunks of time. We really wanted to extend that so we can talk and really weigh up these decisions that we're making, because it's so hard to see a film that you're like, this is great, and we're not going to show it. That's tough. The most rewarding part is inviting the films as well. It's interesting, that whole kind of, it's all about the same process, like calling up filmmakers, telling them that they've been selected for the festival, and then seeing their journey kind of come to fruition with on the big screen, and standing next to them as the lights go down and their film goes up. That's incredible.
That's beautiful.
Can I jump in for 1 second and just tell you that I love coaching people? I've been doing it for over a decade, working with high net worths, executives, a lot of actors, a lot of writer-directors, people looking to activate their creativity. I freaking love it. The thing that I like most about it is that we really, really get results, whether that's bringing in 5 or 6 figures more of income, if it's getting signed by a manager or an agent, if it's booking a Broadway show. I have helped my clients do all of these things. You can find out more at clubvermilion.com, or you can always send me an email at info@clubvermilion.com. I would love to speak to you on the phone about it. You can sign up for a free call. So wherever you want to get to, I would love to help you get there. Okay, back to the show.
Now, let's say, so you see hundreds and hundreds of films that are very caliber and you don't have room for in the festival. Do those filmmakers then a following year resubmit, or do you reach out to them and say, please resubmit, or how does that work?
Unfortunately, once you've submitted, you can't resubmit unless you have changed the film quite drastically. Let's say you sent in a very rough cut because, the deadline was coming up and you didn't have much time left. And you're like, okay, I just want to get something to them. And you sent what you had. It wasn't selected. And then you're like, well, I've got another year and maybe if I move this scene around, tweak the ending, maybe I can make you've changed it, and you're like, I'm going to give it another go. It's rare. I think I can probably count on my hand for short films how many times that has happened and resulted in a selection, but it definitely has a few times. It's just not very common.
Hearing you talk about the pain of having to turn down so many good films, well, it makes me feel very seen and very reassured, because we as filmmakers kind of have this image of programmers and big festivals like, the top 3, Sundance, Tribeca, South by, as like this impenetrable fortress. And does anyone even actually watch our films? So it's so comforting to see you respond in this way and like get emotional about it.
Well, I think that's one of the things that I really try to do a lot, and go and speak to filmmakers. I talk to film students. I talk to filmmakers whenever I can, to really put a face on what can be, as you said, an impenetrable fortress, a kind of faceless organization. You don't know where your film is going, and it's filmmakers are so used to having such a level of control over their whole project. Like, you really are, as a director, you're shaping everything that you want on that screen. And once you kind of release it out into the world, it's like sending your child off to school for the first time. You have no idea what's gonna happen, and you just hope they have like a fun day and come back. But it's really jumping into the unknown. So the more you can kind of put a face, a human kind of personality to that, to say, this is someone who is watching my film. They may not select it, but they will watch it, and they'll watch it with an open mind and open heart, and really wanting to like it. I mean, I often say this, like, programmers are rooting for your films. Like, we don't want you to make bad films and not get selected. We want you to make great films, and then for us to have these agonizing conversations about what we can put in, because the next film that comes along you're always hoping that it's going to be great, you're going to love it, and you can make someone's you can kick off someone's career, or make someone really happy.
Yeah, and I love that word that you used, personality, because I can imagine on the flip side, sometimes filmmakers might not react so well to not getting in. Do you have any fun stories about that?
Uh-oh.
There is always going to be disappointment.
Any horse heads show up in your office?
No horse heads in my office yet. My colleague, especially in the early days, I think Sharon would always get the brunt of it. She is a lot more forward-facing than myself. She's a professor at NYU, so she's very easy to find. I was a little more difficult, so she really took the brunt of the angry emails. But I think a lot of that is really managing your own expectations, especially knowing kind of your chances of getting into a festival. It's not like you buy a lottery ticket and then you don't win the lottery, and you kind of like go back to the store and you start screaming like, I bought this ticket, I should have won. You're like, you had a chance, but there are tough odds involved. I think for filmmakers, I've made films and have submitted to film festivals. I know the other side of it as well. It's always disappointing, and I think it's sometimes disappointing, especially if you can't have that conversation with someone to say, why didn't my film make it in? I get a lot of those, just people needing that kind of closure and sense of like, okay, I understand the odds were tough, but, did you not like my film? Was it not, did it not work for you? Did you understand it? Almost like the end of a relationship as well. Someone's just like, okay, we're done, the end. You're like, okay, but, I kind of, I need something, and then I'll accept that and go away. But like,
so you have to break up with 7,100 people every year.
That's one way of putting it.
That's how my boyfriend dumped me last year. So Jeremy, if you're listening to this, you piece of shit. But back to you, Ben. I have never attended Tribeca Film Festival. It just seems like a place where movie lovers unite, and it just seems like it must be so magical to be there and watch the screenings. Can you just tell me about what it's like when the event goes live and it's here, it's time, and what's it like to be there?
Every year it is a different set of filmmakers. I mean, we have filmmakers who return as well, but predominantly it's filmmakers who are experiencing the festival for the first time. So you really kind of feed off their excitement and anticipation. And I don't think there's, screening a film, especially for the first time in front of a live audience in a film festival, is just, I've seen the adrenaline going through filmmakers who've been totally cool the whole time, and then suddenly you can see them almost shaking with anticipation and excitement, and that's that really kind of feeds into everything we do. It sounds so corny, but it's magic. I mean, when those lights go down and something you have created as a filmmaker goes up on a big screen to a bunch of people who have never seen it before and are excited to see it, or excited to hear someone talk for the first time, or see a new game, or see an experience like that you haven't had before. It's that's what we all, I think, as human beings crave, like new experiences and new. I mean, storytelling is so ingrained into our history, into our DNA, and it's a collective kind of experience where there's few things that we do in this way with like total strangers. We're all going to go into a room and watch a story or like experience a story in some way. It's magical, right?
It is magical. I kind of got chills, to be honest, because so I've had a few films play festivals like at the tier or two below Tribeca, and even then I feel the magic. I fly there, I get there, I train, whatever I have to do to get there and be a part of the celebration of a film that I worked on. I will try my damnedest to be there, because that's, to me, a very important piece of the process. Once it's done, I want to celebrate it. I want to watch it with people. And so I imagine doing that at Tribeca would be such a peak, such an achievement for a filmmaker to be there and experience. So yeah, that is magical.
Well, I know when I was in the creators market at Tribeca a couple of years ago, even that wasn't screening, but I was in the pitch market, and just the buzz and the amount of executives and the amount of other filmmakers who are at, starting the peak of their careers and really doing exciting stuff. Just the energy alone was so delicious and addictive, and it just made me want to go back and back and back every year.
Well, I feel, just being accepted into any festival, there's just, it is really competitive, but you get that energy. Absolutely, Misha. Like, you get that excitement with everything that's happening. It's a sense of like, I've made it, and you have, because it's so difficult to do, and I really feel for filmmakers, especially because you create a film and you want to share it with as many people, and you feel like if you're not being selected for film festivals, you're not getting that opportunity. So when you do get that opportunity, then it's special, and you cherish it, and you've got a stage, you've got a platform, you're ready to go.
Ben, obviously this is a very time-consuming job that you do, but do you still make films today? Do you still consider yourself a filmmaker actively?
I started, interestingly enough, I started programming, and I considered that my day job. I was like, I'm gonna it's a great day job. I'm gonna watch films, I'm gonna learn, I'm gonna expand my education, and I'm gonna go and make even better films. And somewhere along the way, it kind of got flipped around in that programming became my career and filmmaking became something that I do when I have time, if I get a good idea. It's really difficult, and I think that's it's really difficult to take your idea from an idea to realization, and that's one of I will always have a tremendous respect for every film that submits to Tribeca, whether it's strong, whether it's not, whether it's something we consider, whether it's not, because they made it. I mean, you did. You made that film, and that's not easy. Like that's the first step. And so to answer your question, but I don't think I've made anything for a while, but I watch a lot more films now.
That reminds me of a saying that a producer once told me, that every finished film is a miracle.
Very true.
For all of our filmmakers in the audience, do you have any tips on just really low-hanging fruit of what not to do with your short film?
This is kind of playing like the odds game a little. So out of those 7,200 films for Tribeca, the biggest pool is going to be straight narrative drama. So if you're making a fiction film that's dramatic, then just know that that's pretty much what everybody is making. And if you are making it a little bit heavier, like on death or grief or depression, then a lot of people are making those types of films as well. And I think it's something that filmmakers often fall into when they're trying to resonate their idea with an audience, to kind of tap into an emotion. And those are very easy emotions for us to understand. We all find pretty much the same things, or we can agree on the same thing, on things that are sad or like tragic. Whereas we get a lot fewer films that are, I think, joyful or funny or quirky, because that's a little more specific. And then again, if you're making it a narrative as opposed to a documentary or animation, we get a lot fewer short documentaries, and even fewer short animation. Or if you're a student film and you're submitting something to student, it's a much smaller competition that you're going into. So my advice for filmmakers is always is actually to research, especially if you're looking to get into film festivals, and understand that when you are submitting to the major film festivals, you're going into a bit of a lottery, no matter how well you've made your film. And sometimes looking at other festivals where you will have an amazing experience, and you'll still get that feeling of screening your film in front of an incredible audience, like film festivals I've been to. The whole town gets involved in that production, and you just feel that same sense of excitement, and everybody is there to watch your film. And so sometimes, looking at where your film could play specifically, it's like if it's a genre film, maybe look at some of the genre festivals, or films that have kind of late night programming. If it's LGBTQ, you have so many film festivals that really kind of specialize in those types of films as well. So that's storytelling. So really where your film could fit, and being realistic with your own expectations.
Your answers are so logical. Even I'm like, yeah, you're right. Filmmakers do go to drama first, grief first. All the festival I'm at. You're right. How many about grief am I seeing? You're right. Wow, that really got me thinking.
Which is funny, because I think that, Brett, you and I as filmmakers don't default to that.
Right.
We default to the comedy and to the quirky.
Exactly.
It's very interesting because comedy doesn't often win as many awards. That's I think one thing. It's a real risk as a filmmaker. If you make a dramatic film and your audience is kind of silent from beginning to end, you don't know. They could have enjoyed it. They might not have. It doesn't matter. You can make up whatever you want in your head. Whereas if you make a comedy and you play it and the audience is silent, it's like, oh my God, that's dead. It's a real risk.
You failed.
Yeah, and again, with something like comedy, we all have different senses of humor. Like something that I find hilarious, you might be like, yeah, it's okay. Like, getting 6 people in a room to agree that something is funny is a lot harder than getting the same people to agree something is sad, because people have very different senses of humor. So if you can make comedy, if you're funny, please make comedy, because I think the world needs to laugh a bit more, because needs to smile, needs to be reminded there is joy and good things amongst, such terrible things that happen in the world as well. So, when I think people go to cinema, go to the movies to experience that magic and be entertained and taken away from that a little sometimes, then whenever we put it on a comedy program or something different, those tend to sell out pretty fast.
Ben, is it just, it's you and your colleague, Sharon? Are there other eyes on it deciding which get in, or is it you two only?
No, we have a huge team that is based around the world. I mean, that's kind of technology. We have people in everywhere from Nepal to Argentina to Scotland to Denmark, Canada, everywhere. UK. It's a real global team, and they watch so many of the films as well. But it does usually come down to Sharon and I staring across the desk at each other and say, "Is this the one? Yes, we think it is. Maybe no." So the whole process is kind of filtered. So there are a lot of eyes, and there are a lot of different kind of backgrounds and experiences that will look at the film. But both Sharon and I will watch a lot of what are called submissions, in which case nobody's recommended it to us. We're just looking in the database. This sounds interesting. We're going to watch it first. So we do that with probably about maybe a sixth of the films, and then the rest are recommended to us by the screening team. Like someone has seen something, has thought it's fantastic, they'll send it to us. We'll look at it, and we'll also agree it's fantastic, and then it'll be selected for the festival.
I see. So there's an amount of films that don't get to you and Sharon because another set of people have said this is not good enough to move forward.
Yes.
Got it.
If we watched 7,200 films, we would probably go crazy.
You would not be here today.
No, I think I've watched 10,000 total in my career for Tribeca. So that's over years. So 7,200 in 1 year would...
You would perish. Yeah. You would perish.
Yeah, no, he would not even have time for this. Yeah.
How do you preserve your sanity and self-care, especially during this crunch time, like leading up to the final decision making and then through the festival, the long hours? How do you kind of stay sane and alert and well rested during that time?
I think it's a slightly paradoxical for me. I run. So when I'm not watching films, I run. I love running. And so that kind of really helps me clear my mind a little. I think because I spend so much time sitting in front of a screen, actually getting out and moving. And to give you an example, when I first started Tribeca, I would run a couple of miles, and now I'm running kind of marathons just to preserve that kind of to preserve my mental state, and to really it's in a lot of ways it's kind of, I think, it's a very attractive profession for many people, in that I've told people what I do, and I say, I watch films for Tribeca, and they're like, oh my God, and they pay you to do that? I'm like, yes. And they're like, can I do that? And I'm like, yeah, but it's not as I think, fun as it sounds, in that I think, when you're doing something for pleasure, when you're watching a lot of films or you watch a lot of television, you're picking what you watch. Whereas when you are watching submissions, it is work. And
they pick you.
Yeah, especially for short films where, you are jumping from story to story to story. There's, in the hours that in the day, you could probably watch like 40 films if you just, powered through them. And I have done that. But there comes a point where your brain just is tired, is exhausted. It doesn't want to absorb another story. It's like, and it's different than a feature where you kind of follow a narrative, one narrative plot, one thread. Shorts, you're kind of jumping back and forth. You see something really sad, and then you see something really funny, and you see something really weird, and you see something experimental. It's a real jarring experience, and you're just kind of, you never know what's coming next. And
did you know that when you sleep, that your brain's thinking superhighways, there's like a chemical that goes through, like flushes the drain on all of the detritus that has built up. Like, imagine you have a thought about a film and it creates like detritus, like there's like excess like junk in your brain. And when you sleep, all the channels get flushed, and that's why you wake up like able to think again.
Yeah. I mean, that's
I just think that's so cool. And the power of naps.
That helps. Being well rested. I think that's probably where the running comes in. I run, I tire myself out, I have a good night's sleep, and then I can, go and do it all again, and and be enthusiastic and excited. You want, I think as a filmmaker, at the very least, you want someone to be looking forward to watching your film. You don't want that person who's watched like 25 and like,
Jane,
oh my God, I've got to put another one in. Okay, I'm going to put this in. I hate this film already. That's absolutely what you don't want. You want, you paid a submission fee. You want a fair review, a fair shot. You want someone who is going to pay attention, is going to be focused on your film. Might not love it. It might not work for them, but at least you feel you've had that opportunity. It was fair.
Thank you so much for your wisdom, your insight, your optimism. And you just have this
person.
Yeah, it's so refreshing, and it's so beautiful to witness that someone who has been doing this for so long and is so established at a prestigious world-class festival still has that. It's really like an innocence, if I can say that, like just a beautiful openness to films and filmmakers.
I think to do anything for a long period of time, you've got to love it. You really, it has to be something you're passionate about, something you enjoy doing. I always loved watching films, but I never knew how much I loved them until it was a career and a job. I remember films that from years ago that we didn't select in the festival, that made an impression on me, that decades ago, like that, I still pop into my head. I'm like, oh yeah, that was a really good film. It's so you gotta love it, right?
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Ben, for your time today.
I can't believe how fast this went. Oh, I don't want to leave. Ben, you are a really fabulous guest. I just want to take a second to say that this has been so insightful into just insightful information into one of the most top tier festivals in the globe. I mean, what a delight. It was truly, Misha and I are really grateful to have you today.
Thank you, Brett. It was an absolute pleasure to meet you as well.
And we'll see you at the festival.
For sure, Misha. I look forward to it. Take care.
Thank you so much for listening to Film on Tape. I really hope that it was helpful to you in some way. And if so, please feel free to leave a 5-star review so that other people know this is a good podcast. If you want to check out my work as a writer-director, you can see it at www.mishacalvert.com or drop me a DM. The best way to get a hold of me is on Instagram at Misha Calvert. See you next time.